Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Tier 1 Transfer Podcast. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Ronaldo Brown. How are you doing, mate?
Doing all right, mate.
Have you
always crack a smile in before
you do? You're very happy lately. I find it a little bit disconcerting when you're really happy, but why not? You know, it's the Champions League. It's back at Old Trafford. And joining us today is a guest, Paul Hirst from The Times. Paul, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm always happy. Always.
Yeah.
Happy.
I wish I could say that. I can't honestly say that, but
bit of yin and yang, yeah. You're always happy. Ronaldo's usually miserable, but he's cheered himself up. As I mentioned, obviously, game tonight against RB Leipzig. Do you feel? I mean, this might sound a little bit melodramatic, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you feel that Ollie's under any pressure at all because of the sort of indifferent start that United have had, especially at home, where our home form hasn't been great? Or do you think people, need to sort of be a little bit more patient because it is only early in the season?
It's very difficult to judge at the moment, isn't it? Because no one's been excellent. I mean, you look at City last night, who were great, and then, they obviously got hammered by Leicester. So everyone's very up and down at the moment. So I think that probably buys Solskjaer a little bit of time, a little bit of a bit of leeway. But, that some of the performances haven't been great, and if those keep being repeated, if we don't start seeing better performances, better results, then and United's hover around that where they are at the moment in the table, then the pressure is going to increase. So he'll be looking to get a few results under his belt for sure now.
Absolutely. He was speaking on Tuesday ahead of the game, and he addressed the Donny van de Beek situation, because obviously he's not played a lot since he arrived from Ajax, and there's some people have been sort of questioning that. Do you think now is the time to start playing him a little bit more? Because we haven't seen a lot of him, but when we have seen him, he's looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I thought he looked very good when he played against Brighton in the Cup. I think Solskjaer's kind of struggling to find a place for him in the team, isn't he, at the moment? Obviously, Bruno, you can't take him out of the team, or he certainly doesn't think you can take him out of the team. And then, do you drop him further down into midfield? Ollie seems to be satisfied with McTominay and Fred as the pair, and then you've got Pogba coming off the bench as well. So I do feel a bit sorry for Van der Beek. I was watching him after the match on Saturday, just doing this this warm down, like running up and down the pitch. And I just thought, you probably thought you were going to see more action by this stage of the season. But as you said, Ollie was very forceful in his answers yesterday in his press conference, saying that he will have a big part to play this season. And he did want strength in depth, didn't he? He's a good alternative to have. So it's just a question of whether Solskjaer can keep him happy when he's sat on the bench. I mean, that's the key to any good manager, isn't it? Keeping your fringe players, your squad players happy.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking at United's summer basically in its entirety, or the transfer window, obviously we didn't get a Sancho, we didn't get a Grealish, and all the reports that have come out about how Solskjaer pretty much didn't get any of his initial transfer targets. How well do you think he's actually been backed by the board this summer?
I think he's being let down personally. I'd give this window a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, something like that, because it's just, the signings weren't the ones that United wanted, that Solskjaer wanted. We know they wanted Sancho, as you said. That was his number one target. And in addition to that, I just think the worst thing about it was that they waited until the last minute. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson used to laugh at clubs who did their business on the last day of the transfer window. And, here we are there we were, a few weeks ago on that mad Monday, going on a bloody trolley dash around Europe, trying to pick players up who didn't have clubs. And then, Cavani sat at home for 2 weeks waiting to play. So, you can't tell me that he was the number one choice. I mean, he's a good striker. He's got the record. His goals record is amazing. And he probably will go on to be a good player for United. But if he was that good, and if United wanted him that much, then why didn't they sign him on July the 1st when his contract expired? Why didn't they sign him in January when they were offered him? So it was a bit chaotic that last weekend. And, who knows, Diallo might turn out to be a great signing over time. a Martial kind of type signing that no one kind of saw coming. But Solskjaer needs results now, doesn't he? I mean, that is the most important thing. And you can see he's almost like changing the system now to negate the fact that he doesn't have a right winger. Playing three at the back now and again just because, he doesn't have someone there. And I was watching Dan James on Saturday and I just felt so sorry for him because the guy's got his confidence has plummeted and it's he's not the answer, I don't think, on that right wing. So I think if I was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I would be a little bit cheesed off about how the window went for United.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much all in agreement with that. But if we go on to kind of how the season's unfolding to begin with, we've obviously seen the inconsistencies of the top dogs, the likes of City and Liverpool. Do you think it kind of leaves it open for the likes of United to possibly challenge, maybe not challenge, but finish a little bit higher than they did last season? Or do you think top four is pretty much still our level, no matter what the likes of City and Liverpool are doing?
It's so unpredictable, isn't it, this season? God knows, you might see Wolves in the top three this season. It could happen, couldn't it? Everton could do it. I think United, if they get top four, they should be satisfied with that. I think certainly Solskjaer would be happy with that, given how the summer transfer window went, with all the uncertainty that's been created by the pandemic, by the packed fixture list. I just think getting over the line is the main, into that top four, getting the Champions League money is the goal this season. I mean, it would be a tall order for them to challenge. You get hammered by Spurs 6-1 and win the title. I just don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, top four is what they should be aiming for, and anything above that is a bonus, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right, and it's a shame because we're not really looking like we're in a position to take advantage of other teams struggling a little bit. One player that United were linked with in the summer, or have been linked with, was Deo Upamecano. Ollie spoke about him ahead of tonight's game, only briefly. You wrote a piece recently about Upamecano and being on United's radar and being a target. How likely do you think that is to happen next summer? Do you think we can expect to see him at Old Trafford as a Manchester United player?
Well, they definitely want him. I think they knew about this new release clause that kicks in next summer, so that's why they didn't go for him this summer. Plus, he signed a new contract in July, so it's not really a great look if he signs a new contract in July and then leaves the following month or whatever. So, he's a player that they've looked at, that they want. Strong, aggressive, quick, very composed on the ball as well. And the way that Leipzig plays is very similar to United in terms of playing on the counter-attack. So he knows how to fit into that system. He's not left-footed, unfortunately, which is something that United lack at the moment. But if he's available for 40 million, 38 million, then why not go for him? They've been looking at him for so long. I remember reading an interview with Derek Langley, one of the former United scouts, where he talked about how they looked at him as a kid, Upamecano, but just decided not to sign him. So they've known about him for a while, and now he was so good for them last year, Leipzig. So it does make sense, and centre back is an area that they need to improve on.
Definitely. Even with Axel's heroics in Paris, I think there's a...
I was going to mention, would you not ask Paul about the situation where if United have been looking at him for that long, and we spoke to Christian Falk, didn't we? And he mentioned that there would have been a possibility to sign him if United did act early in the transfer window. If that's someone that we actually have been keeping an eye on for so long, why do you think the board didn't really, or maybe Ollie didn't? He's one of the four targets that we actually had that Ollie didn't obviously get pushed through with the board. But why do you think that didn't really happen if there was a possibility to possibly get him in the earlier stages of the transfer window?
I think they only had a certain amount to play with, or that's what they told us in terms of money. And Sancho was the one, the one that the top target. They went all out for him, didn't get him. Excuse me, and then the madness of the last few weeks just led them to kind of just pick up any player that they could, basically. I agree with you. I think they should have just gone for Upamecano the start of it, got it done, because he did have a €50 million release clause in his previous contract. So, get him over the line, get that one done. And then Dortmund basically, played United perfectly. They said, they were straight from the start, said, this is how much we want for him. And unless you come up with that money, then we won't sell him. And United just didn't believe them. But, they're a serious club, Dortmund. They know how to buy players now, to sell players. So, they stuck to the word, and that's where United wasted, I think, a lot of money. A lot of time at the start of the window, just trying to do that deal while everyone else was, getting their ducks in a row. So I think that's probably why they didn't move for him this summer up in Meccano.
You mentioned him, so we'll speak about him, even though I think everyone's sick of talking about him. And I'm sure that's a good question. I'm sure you are as well. Jadon Sancho, do you think that we can expect round 2 of that saga next summer?
If it does happen again, I hope it gets done quickly, because this summer I spent all my whatever hair I've got left, I was tearing it out. I think so. Yeah, the year obviously would be a year on. He'd have one less year on his contract. So 2 years is a bit more. They're being a bit more of a delicate kind of position, Dortmund, unless they get him to re-sign sign a new contract, which I don't think will happen. So it just depends whether United have got the money, and this is why Champions League qualification is such an important issue for United, and getting fans through the gate as well, because they're losing a lot of money. I think it's about 5 million every match from not having fans in. So that needs to stop for them to start getting money in the tills again.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds daft when we've just had a transfer window closed, the summer transfer window, but Paul, better than anyone, the nature of the beast, and fans are already looking towards January, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen in January? Do you think United would do any business in January, or does it depend on how the results are?
I think it depends on the results. I think they've always shied away from buying players in January, haven't they? Even going back to Fergie's time. I know they signed Vidic and Evra, I think, didn't they, in January, and they turned out to be great signings. But they took a while to settle in, didn't they? They took 6 months to get going, and that's the reason why they don't usually sign players in January. I think if they always say if an opportunity presents itself, then they'll go for someone, and if the money's there, like they did with Mata. But yeah, you can't look past the conference call that Woodward gave the other week, where he said that we've been massively impacted by this financial crisis. So that will also be playing on his mind. So Ighalo will go, I would have thought. I don't think they'll extend his deal. So I guess it depends how Cavani does. If Cavani's decent, then I don't think they need to replace Ighalo.
No, I agree.
I'd also agree. Uncle Ighalo.
It was a nice story, wasn't it, Ighalo? But it looks like it's not sort of. I think to be honest, being brutally honest, and I do like Odi and Ighalo. Perhaps in the summer it would have been better if he'd have moved on. But I mean, maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he's still got a part to play.
Yeah, it does seem like United are pretty much looking for their new striker on number 9, even though Martial's done well so far. So I'm going to ask about one player that we've been linked with still, and that's been, recently has been Erling Haaland. And do you still think he's on United's radar even in the long term?
Well, maybe, yeah, but the point is that he's already turned down United once, hasn't he? So, I don't, unless he thinks that he's progressed a bit further down the line and he wants to join for, if United are doing well, then fair enough. But I think you'll see, you see what Real Madrid might come in for him this summer. He might be more tempted to move there. Maybe even Man City might have a look at him because they need a number 9, don't they? They do have the option, United, and I can see them triggering it if he plays well, of extending Cavani by a year as well. So that's a kind of backup option. If there is only a certain amount of money available, and they do fancy another go at Sancho, not Sanchez, God, and they do want to bring in up a Meccano, then they probably won't be able to go for Haaland as well, just on the pure, economic front. We'll see. I think he's a great striker. I think he's probably, maybe Lewandowski aside, he's probably the best kind of out-and-out striker in Europe at the moment. I just think he's got everything, hasn't he? He's quick, he's tall, he's powerful, got a great shot on him. So, and he's got that arrogance about him as well, hasn't he? Which United sometimes like to see in their players. So yeah, he kind of fits the bill, doesn't he? But it just depends on whether he wants to come to United or not.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you believe that United might be a little bit dissuaded by who actually represents him as well? Do you think that could kind of come into play on whether he might come in the future?
Yeah, well, the thing is that clubs always go through spats with agents. They kind of get burned by one deal, and but they still end up going back. So you look at Raiola's clients. He's got a lot of good ones. So I don't think you can put a blanket ban on dealing with Mino Raiola. So yeah, if they have to deal with him, then I think they will. Man City, Pep Guardiola had a pop at Raiola a couple of years ago. But I think if they wanted to sign one of his clients, they'd probably do it, because it's it's the nature of the beast. That's how football is at the moment, and Raiola commands such respect from the players that they all go to him, because he gets 9 times out of 10 he gets a deal for them, so he goes into bat for them. So it's it's just one of those things. They'll have to deal with Raiola if they have to.
So I wouldn't mind anyway if you get Haaland.
Oh yeah, listen, deal with it. Deal with whoever. Deal with the devil if it gets you Erling Haaland. To be honest with you, we haven't got time for principles now.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Exactly.
Well, obviously United did finish in the top 4 last season, and we have qualified for the Champions League. But in terms of how we actually might fare in these competitions, how far do you think United will actually go?
I think they should get through the group, shouldn't they? I quite fancy to win tonight, to be honest, and getting you've got what, a couple of home games after that, so they should win those two. They are becoming a bit of or they do look a bit like a knockout cup team, United, at the moment. Those one-off fixtures like PSG last week and PSG the season before last, they are on those occasions they do generally rise to it and kind of play quite well against the big teams. So if it comes to knockout stages, then who's to say that they won't end up knocking on to the kind of quarterfinals, semi-finals. Again, it's so unpredictable this season, isn't it? You look at Real Madrid, they haven't they got 1 point, I think, so far. Drew again last night, didn't they? So again, all leagues across Europe are unpredictable. So I don't see why United can't have a real go at it, and that's probably something that Solskjaer's got in mind as well. It's that the Champions League is a bit of a release for him, I think. Away from the kind of the daily, the grind of the Premier League, the grind of playing at Old Trafford against teams that put 10 men behind the ball, etc. I think they're a bit more adventurous in Europe, United, and they've got some big scalps under their belt. So I don't see why they can't have a decent one in the competition. Yeah.
Just one final question, Paul. We saw recently that Paul Pogba, there was a story that was on, I know it was nothing to do with you, of course, but there was a story in the press about Paul Pogba. He spoke out about it. I just wanted to get your take on that. How important do you think it is that, first of all, that journalists do the job properly and are diligent, and secondly, that players have the opportunity, if they need to speak out when false stories or fake news, as they say, are put out about them?
Yeah, well, Pogba's entitled to his opinion, isn't he? From what I hear, he was really annoyed by it. So that's why United went and backed him up with their own statement as well. I do think, there were a lot of other websites who ran that story as well. So I don't see why he picked on the Sun in particular. It was on quite a few websites, but he just kind of picked that one out. But yeah, and we didn't touch the story because we didn't kind of stand it up with United as a journalistic phrase is, get it second sourced or whatever. So I can see why he was annoyed at that. It's kind of, you know, it's quite an intricate kind of discussion, isn't it? You know, when it's, you know, it's about politics, about extremism, about playing for your country. So there were quite a lot of, you know, it wasn't a straightforward, you know, I'm going to retire because I'm old kind of thing. He was a bit more kind of delicate than that. So yeah, I can see why he was cheesed off. But again, I was a bit surprised that he kind of picked on or singled out the Sun when quite a few other websites ran it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you can understand. I think, you know, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the Sun sort of is one of the bigger papers. Maybe that was behind his thinking. But like you say, you know, you have to get these things stood up. You know, you didn't run it because you couldn't, and it turned out it wasn't true, which makes sense. On that heavy note, though, after all the frivolities of the Champions League and transfers, we'll leave it there. Paul, thanks for coming on the channel and chatting to us again. Much appreciated, and you know, hopefully United can get another Champions League win tonight after the heroics in Paris and get a win under the belt. Yeah,
fingers crossed. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
So thanks to Paul Hirst for the Times for coming on the channel and coming on our Tier 1 Transfer podcast. I mean, it looks like it's going to be round 2 again in the summer, innit? Upper Meccano, maybe a bit of Haaland, maybe a bit of Sancho.
Listen,
should we just dig out our old videos from last summer and replay them?
It's what we basically live for, innit? This transfer window stress. Nah, it's not. It's not really. It's not at all. Hopefully, I could go through that again.
Mate, even he was saying he hopes it happens quickly if it does happen, but we never know. But obviously, United playing RB Leipzig tonight. Ronaldo, quick prediction. Go on, give us a prediction.
I was about to say score. I think United win 2-1 tonight. 2-1. I was going to say 3-1, but I'm going to be a little bit more conservative because United haven't given us 100 reasons to be overly confident in them. So we'll go with that, innit? And I don't really know what the lineup's going to be either.
I know, man. It's been some of the lineups have been a bit surprising to say the least. Fred and McTominay and Dan James getting more game time than most people expected. If you are watching that game,
so you're not going to do your score prediction?
My score prediction is 1-0 to United. I'll take a 1-0. Donny van der Beek's going to get the winner. But if you are watching the game or if you're not watching the game, either way, make sure you check out the channel later on because we'll have the pre-game show, we'll have the predictions, we'll have the watch-along, we'll have the live reaction, we'll have the fan cams. It's a long show as well. I think we're kicking off around 6 o'clock. You know, we go for a long time, mate. We've got you covered tonight, so make sure you check that out. And also check out other videos on the channel as well. That's been Ronaldo Brown. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Tier 1 Transfer Podcast. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.